Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanutamardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are discussing the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I hope you remember it. It is called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. The meaning of guna, I said there are three meanings. The first meaning is that this whole universe is made out of gunas. The basic matter out of which this creation has come is called guna. Second meaning of guna is that which manifests as special qualities or that which helps us to distinguish one object from the other. Is that point clear? When there are two objects, how do we know that there are two objects? Especially, let me give step-by-step illustration. Suppose there is a table and a lemon tree. So two objects, table and lemon tree. So you know this table is one object, this lemon tree is another object. How did you know? How did you know? Because one is non-living, quality. One is non-living, another is living. One is a piece of wood, another is a particular type of tree. Suppose there are two trees, one lemon tree, one apple tree. Then also you can distinguish. How do you distinguish? Both are living, both are trees, but each species is different, jati is different. Suppose both are apple trees, then how do you distinguish? So one is small tree, one is big tree. One tree yields sour apples, another yields sweet apples. One is on the left side, another is on the right side. One is taller, another is shorter. That is all. Suppose the same apple tree, and you can distinguish this branch and that branch. You can distinguish this leaf and that leaf. So, what is the point? To distinguish between two objects. If there is more than one object, one and more, we need certain parameters to distinguish one from the other. All unconsciously, without even going through this logical process, but inside the process is going on. But we have greater difficulty when some things look similar. Suppose two twins attend my class. Twins. How do you distinguish them? Then you have to look hard. One's earring is on the left ear. Another's earring is on the right ear. One is slightly smudgy. Another is not so. Some distinguishing character. Sometimes even the mothers cannot distinguish. So that is why they label it number 1, number 2. Otherwise, one baby gets milk twice, the other one doesn't get it all. So, what is the second meaning of guna? That which helps us to distinguish two objects. That is called guna. And also manifestation of what we call quality. Somebody is a good cook, somebody is a good speaker, somebody is a good singer, somebody is a good writer, etc., etc. These qualities. The third meaning of guna is that which binds. Guna means rope. So that which binds us, that is called guna. And every guna binds us. How does it bind us? In Vedantic terminology, the word binding has a very special meaning. First of all, when we say what is binding, we have to understand what does it mean. What is the meaning of binding or bondage? Means you are not free. You are not free to do what you like. Is that point clear? You are not free. Somehow something restrains you to behave as you like. It doesn't allow you. That is the meaning of bondage. But the real meaning in Vedantic terminology is when you forget your true nature and think you are something else, somebody else. That is called bondage. Ajnana here means you forget your true nature. You think you are somebody else. And that creates all the problems. Even in day-to-day life also, it creates problems. Suppose at night, someone is drunk and he is returning home. And instead of, nowadays, so many flats, they all look alike. Instead of entering into his room, that he enters into his house flat, he enters into somebody else's flat. Suppose, imagine, this fellow is also having a habit of entering his own flat through a window. So this fellow is trying to enter somebody else's flat through a window. Immediately problems will start because the owner will not allow him to enter. So in Vedantic terminology, what a guna does is that if a person is trying to enter through the roof into somebody else's house, that is called tamoguna. If he is trying to enter into somebody else's house through the window, that is called rajoguna. If he is trying to enter through the front door, it is called sattva-guna. In any case, what is he trying to do? He is trying to enter into a house which doesn't belong to him. That is the meaning of bondage. So Vedanta tells us all the three gunas are robbers. What do they rob us? Knowledge. They don't directly rob us of our freedom. They rob us of our knowledge. So if our knowledge is covered, almost covered, that is called tamoguna. If our knowledge is something we know, something we don't know, half right knowledge, half wrong knowledge, that is called rajoguna. But if it is crystal clear, still somebody is holding us, that is called sattva-guna. So Sri Ramakrishna had given a beautiful story, three robbers. Yes. All the robbers, what do? They rob us of our treasure. What is our treasure? Our treasure is our knowledge. If somebody robs our knowledge, if somebody hides our eyes from behind, then what is hidden? He is not binding you in any way. He is only covering your eyes. If anybody covers our eyes, then our whole knowledge is covered. We can't go. We are free to go, but we cannot go because we can't see. That is why Lord Shiva is supposed to have sprouted the third eye. Do you know that? So, Lord Shiva and Parvati, husband and wife. So as usual, one day they were sitting there on Mount Kailas and Parvati felt like playing with him a little bit. So she came and from behind and put both her hands and covered the eyes of Lord Shiva. And immediately he sprouted. She only covered for a moment. Immediately he sprouted the third eye. Then he scolded her. You know what harm you have done? For you, what is one moment? For the worlds, it is one whole yuga. And what are those eyes? One is the sun, another is the moon. And what does the sun and moon do to us? They give us light. And without that light, what happens? There would be no life at all. So he had sprouted the chakshu. That is why it is called Gnana Chakshu. Gnana Chakshu means what? Eye of knowledge. So through
all Devata has got third eye, isn't all?
Not visible. Only is Triyambakam Yajamahe. Only Lord, everybody has got, they don't need third eye. So we are better than gods. We have 4 eyes. I have 4 eyes. It's even better than God. Yeah. There is, where is the third eye? You show me. Yeah, but they don't show. But Lord Shiva, they show. Anyway, the story is that these lights, the sun and the moon, they illumine the world, and so thereby they give us knowledge. Light means knowledge. So he scolded her that how can the world ever exist? How can it function? It will die. That is why he gave the third eye. Through the third eye, he illuminated. Means what? If we have knowledge, we don't need these eyes. The function of these eyes, ears is only knowledge. What is the knowledge? Suppose man wants to see at night. We need light. But a blind man, he doesn't need, because he knows where things are. There are also some animals which can see extremely well only at night. The purpose of the light is to give us knowledge. So what do these 3 gunas do? They rob us of our knowledge in different degrees. So the more they rob us, the worse they are. But if there is sattva guna is there, what it does? It doesn't free us, but it shows us the way. When a person's sattva awakens, then what happens? That person, he will know what is right, what is wrong. We are all creatures of knowledge. If our knowledge is right, we live a right life. If it is wrong knowledge, I will give a very practical thing. These are all very practical things. Suppose you meet somebody and you have a wrong opinion about that person. For whatever reason, you have a wrong opinion about a good person. So long as you have wrong opinion, in your eyes, that person is a bad person. Even Sri Ramakrishna, people thought, most of the people who saw Sri Ramakrishna at that time, they thought he was mad. They did not think he was bad. They thought he was mad. That's why they complained to Madhur Babu that remove this person. He is destroying, not only destroying himself, but destroying us also, because the way he is worshipping Mother Kali, if he continues, then Mother Kali will get very angry and she will destroy us also. But fortunately, then you know what happened? This illustration is very good. They wrote a letter, Madhur Babu. They wanted Sri Ramakrishna to be removed. Then what happened? Madhur Babu, who was given better understanding, by whom? By the mother, said, wait, let me see for myself. Otherwise, if everybody is writing, if all the office members write against one office worker, what would be the boss doing? He will be forced to dismiss. And what he was doing was really, in our eyes, it is wrong, unscriptural. He was eating. For example, he was feeding cat. Not only he was feeding cat, he was eating himself also. Now let me put it before you like this. You brought all these offerings with the faith that Swami is a good man and he will offer all those things to Thakur. And I sit there and I start taking a little bit from the cake and other things. Next time will you allow me to do puja? Be frank. That's what Sri Ramakrishna was doing. Then Madhur Babu came and he was observing from outside, you know that. But what was Sri Ramakrishna doing on that day? Especially, Sri Ramakrishna was behaving extraordinarily normally. He was doing what he was doing every day. But Madhur Babu was given that grace of mother. He understood. This is not an ordinary worshipper. He is a raga bhakti. Not only he didn't want him to dismiss, on the contrary, he went and told to Rani Rasmani that very soon the Divine Mother will awaken because we have got an extraordinary pujari. But without that understanding being given, the Madhur Babu would have been the person he would have dismissed. Whereas, look at his son. He not only dismissed Hriday, he also wanted to dismiss Sri Ramakrishna. It is only because of fear he withdrew his order, but actually he gave the order. And he was the person who gave the order to the world famous Swami Vivekananda after he returned from America that he should not enter into. Rajas and Maharajas were pulling the chariot of Swami Vivekananda. This man says, you are a polluted person. Don't enter into the temple of Mother Kali. Otherwise, the temple will become polluted. Now, are we going to blame him? What can he do? It is all mother's play. Kare dauma brahmapado, kare koroma adhogami. So, even now so many people have lot of misunderstandings. They don't accept Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother as divine incarnations. But they would like to say somebody else is Divine Mother. Amritanandamai is Divine. Satya Sai Baba is incarnation of God. Do you think Satya Sai Baba devotees, they will accept Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of God?
No.
They won't. It is, they have been given that understanding by the mother. What can they do? So all this is Leela. This Leela happens what? By whose? Through what instrumentality? Through the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. We are all what is called puppets. So the Lord has, Divine Lord wanted to play with us. So you know what he did? He installed 3 microcontrols into each one of us. He named them as sattva, rajas and tamas. And how does he play? The best analogy I could come across is a dimmer switch. You know, suppose there is a 1000-watt bulb and there is a dimmer switch. At one extreme, it is complete 1000 watts. At the other extreme, it is complete darkness. In between, you can have any degree, 1 watt, 5 watt, 10 watt. So our life is a combination of this. Sometimes we are having what is called a dimmer, switch is on. Sometimes we are very bright. So early in the morning, it is very bright. And when the sun rises, it becomes slowly dimmer. Rajoguna takes place. And when the night time comes, complete tamoguna comes. Every guna is good in its own place, but each one of us are dominated by one particular guna most of the time. So some people are very, very restless most of the time, because even they also have to sleep. When they sleep, they are overcome by tamoguna. And when people are overcome by tamoguna, you can't distinguish whether they are sattvika sampannas or tamoguna sampannas. Every sleeping man I call is a saint. Because you abuse him, he won't respond. You praise him, he won't respond. See the point? But most of the time, one particular guna dominates. And depending which guna dominates, our happiness, our unhappiness, both we have to experience. It depends upon that particular guna. If a person is sattva-guna sampanna, even if you blame him, he will forget very, very quickly, like that snake. which was beaten by the boys, it had forgotten. Sri Ramakrishna says, why did it forget? Because its sattva guna has increased. It didn't remember at all that the boys had bet. But if it is rajoguna sampanna, he will remember not only that person, he is 14 generations he will remember. Not only 14 generations before, but 14 generations afterwards. You know, these feuds, family feuds, especially among the Arabs and others, these families, somewhere their grandfathers had quarreled. Even now, the effects go on like that. Yeah, you know, this Rajoguna Sampannas. So if it is Tamoguna Sampanna, then they become very destructive and completely covered with what is called opposite knowledge. So these are the three gunas which bind us. Now the Lord is going to explain to us how do we know which guna is manifest. In brief, I will just give you a small introduction, then we can proceed. Tamo guna covers our nature completely at different degrees. Another point before I go to understand is, no man is completely dominated by one guna, only by one guna. It is a mixture always, like a dimmer switch. Now what is the analogy of this dimmer switch? If you have to understand that light and darkness are not two completely opposed things. There is only one thing. If it is less light, it is called darkness. If it is less dark, it is called. So they are not two separate things. They are one thing and experienced in a particular way. That's all. The gunas also like that. All the time what we have to understand, it is a mixture. All the three are mixed. But like a dimmer switch, it could be very bright or it could be very dark. Most of the time we are somewhere in between. So how do we know which guna is manifest? But through the effect, we can understand the cause. If this is the effect, this must be the cause. So tamoguna is nidra, pramada, alasya. Nidra means sleep. Sleep doesn't mean only when we go to bed. When you are listening to my talk and switch off your minds, that is also called sleep only. When you are reading a book, your mind is wandering, that is also called sleep. When you are driving, your mind is thinking something. This is how accidents happen. That is called sleep. Alasya means what? Always thinking, there is enough time, I can do it tomorrow, day after tomorrow. This procrastination is another quality of tamoguna. Pramada means always trying to get into trouble. This is the quality of, when we see these things, a person again and again, he is manifesting these qualities. That means he is dominated by tamoguna. Rajoguna means what? It produces endless desires. Kama, karma. Two qualities. Kama means what? Desire. Karma means restlessness. Go on acting. Even if there are some people, you should ask them to sit. And they can't sit quiet. One person came some time back. He was telling, Swamiji, previously I was very, very restless person. But now I am very calm and quiet. See, he is not even aware that what he is doing, he is as restless as before, but he is not aware. So, Rajoguna, when it comes, it manifests certain qualities. I will also give Sri Ramakrishna's illustration, what he said. So, Rajoguni always wants to do something. Ask him to sit, read, meditate, do puja, can't. like children, small children. But ask him to do something useful. You clean this place and run to this place or make this, and very happy. Because his Rajoguna is being used in a creative way, proper way. That is why rituals are created. Rituals are created not for Sattvika people and not for Tamasika people. They are created for Rajasika people. You have Rajas, excess of Rajas, but use it, connect it with God. When Sattva comes, there are two characteristics. Sattva. First is Gnana Vriddhi. Knowledge means right understanding, increase. Then Sukha. Sukha means what? Happiness. So a Sattvika person is very happy even if there are not many things outside, because he is producing his own happiness. Rajoguni, he is a mixture of both happiness and unhappiness. Tamoguni is neither happiness nor unhappiness. He is just dull. His brain is too inactive to manifest anything. So these are the qualities. So also, let us first take the example of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna says bhakti is also of three types. When a Sattva Guni Bhakta, what does he do? Perhaps his house is dilapidated. Perhaps he has a torn mosquito curtain. And at night, without letting anybody know, he will be doing japa, meditation, prayer. Early morning, he is found sleeping. People think maybe he could not sleep at night, so he is sleeping now. Totapuri Maharaj, he used to sleep whole day. Totapuri Maharaj, whole day on the Panchavati, he used to put a thick blanket. Latu Maharaj, he also was seen a thick blanket, and people used to think he was sleeping. What do you think they were really doing? Under the blanket, they used to merge in meditation. This is Sattva-guna Sampanna quality. He doesn't want anyone to know that he is doing any spiritual practice. And he wants that to be highly secret. He is satisfied with very simple food. But he is extremely calm, gentleman. He will not harm even a creature, even by thought. Not merely not doing. Even a Tamogni will not harm. But he will not harm because he is too lazy. Pipu Pisu. You know Pipu Pisu? You don't know? I must tell you that story, Pipu Pisu. There was a king. Pipu Pisu.
Yeah.
There was a king, and one day he went out, saw people working very hard. He said, wow, my people working very hard. Where is the need? So he said, we have a lot of money. And the minister, he said, no, your money, if you want to spend, it won't last long. But king said, no, declare, from tomorrow they need not work. Everybody will be provided. First class feast every day. Now, next day onwards, huge tent was built and everybody is fed to their heart's content. Then who wants to work? So, everybody gave up working. Very soon, the royal treasury is coming to an end. Then the minister went and said, your money is getting exhausted. What are you going to do after this? Then the foolish king came to his senses. Okay, what shall I do? Yes, let us feed the laziest fellows. So next day, declaration was made. Only laziest fellows will be fed. Everybody came declaring, I am the laziest fellow, I am the laziest fellow. How to find out? The minister was very intelligent. So after they have eaten, and they have eaten so much, they don't want to move from there. He put fire to the tent. As soon as people saw whiffs of smoke, immediately Everybody left excepting two fellows. They were so lazy, after eating, the food was still hanging on their mouth. They didn't want to even wipe. So one fellow was, they were lying, both were lying. One fellow was telling, you know, a dog was licking their mouth, a dog. Says, this dog is licking my mouth, will you do something? One fellow was telling to the other fellow. The other fellow is telling that, no, I don't want to do anything, because if I drive it away, it will come to me. So, meanwhile, the fire was slowly coming. So one fellow's back was slightly getting warm. He says, Pete Pudche, he meant, he was Pete Pudche, my back is burning. So he didn't want to utter the whole words. BB, he said, back burning. Pipu means back burning, BB. The other fellow was equally lazy. He said, Kiriye show. Then means turn your back and sleep. So, TS, turn back and sleep, TS. He simply said TS. And the minister said, these two alone deserve to be fed. So, a tamasic fellow, he also doesn't harm anybody, not because he is a great person, but because he is too lazy to do anything. This is why Swami Vivekananda said, the so-called good persons are not really good. They are goody-goody. Goody-goody person. That's what Swami Vivekananda said. That's not goodness. True goodness requires tremendous energy. So, these tamasic people, it only creates too much of wrong knowledge. And therefore they misbehave and they suffer consequently, because suffering will come to the tamasic people also. Now, whole life, if somebody is dominated by sattva or rajas or tamas, when they die, after their death, how are they reborn? So, urdhvam gachanti sattvastha. Those who are endowed with sattva, they go to higher worlds. Madhye tishtanti rajasa. Those who are rajasic, they come back again and they continue their life's journey. Adho gachanti tamasaha. Those who are tamasic people, they go down. Now, understand that poem. Shokalito Maricha. Kare dauma brahmapada. So some people, oh mother, you grant the position of Brahma. How does she grant? By giving sattva guna and knowledge. Kare koroma adhoga. How does she do that? By endowing them with tamo guna. Because she is trigunamayi. Gunashraye gunamayi. Narayani. What does she do with this? When Ishvara does this creation, activity, Ishvara's activity. What is the activity of Ishvara? Only three. What are they? Srishti, Sthiti, Vinasha. Srishti is done by Sattva Guna. Sthiti is done by Rajo Guna. And Laya is done by Tamo Guna. Correspondingly, we are Ishvara's counterparts. Therefore, when we, through these gunas, when we get Sattva Guna, we do Srishti. What Srishti means? What? We become creative. A cook, when he is endowed with Sattva Guna, what do you think he will do? He will create better dishes. A person who is a singer, what do you think he will do? He or she also, I have to include she also, because my Uma is there. So, what does he or she do? She creates new ways of expressing his or her, what is it called? Talents. When a person wants to write, or a scientist, new ideas will come. This is called Srishti. And when a person wants to maintain a house, how do you maintain the house? You have to clean it up, paint and do all those things. That is possible only if you have Rajoguna, or you create children. Parents create children. That is called creation. So that's why so much joy is there in creation, creative act. Sattva-guna. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati. But maintenance is there. Maintenance is done only through Rajoguna. The mother has to get up 5-6 times at night to feed the baby. And when the baby goes to school, you have to leave the baby at the school and then bring her back. Whole life. Not only that, the baby's baby also comes. Then the grandparents, they go on running and washing the buttocks of all these grandchildren. That is, Rajoguna is needed. But what is Laya? When we get Tamoguna, then we destroy not only ourselves but also others. So when people get this Tamoguna, what happens? They create wars, they create jihads, they create these terroristic activities. But if the same people get Rajoguna, then some good also they do, some bad also they do, because Rajoguna is a mixture of Sattva-guna and Tamoguna. But when people become Sattvic, then what happens to them? They become spiritually advanced. They can only do good. So this is how the whole Srishti Sthiti Laya is nothing but a play of the Divine Mother in the form of three gunas. That is why the Divine Mother is not separate. She is the three gunas. It is not like ours having a hand and a foot. It is the Divine Mother herself is the three gunas. She only is working, like Mother Annapurna. This is a concept, you should be very, very careful to understand it. When we say Mother Annapurna, she is shown as a figure. She has a pot of rice and whoever comes, she gives. Is that the idea? No. She is the food. Whenever you are eating food, whom are you eating? Mother Annapurna. She comes to you and she enters into you and she is sustaining you. That is the idea. Prasad, we call it prasad. You offer something. Then what happens? Thakur comes and enters into that fruits, flowers and sweets. Then when we eat, what are we eating? Prasad. To make this idea understandable, let me put it. You are eating a banana and you are eating in the sunlight because you have to see banana is good, bad. You are eating banana. You are eating in the light of the sun. What are you really eating?
Energy.
No, sun. You are eating the sun. Whenever you eat something, you are eating the sun, because the sunlight comes and through photosynthesis it becomes the plants. Plants then give flowers and fruits, and those fruits when we are eating, we are actually eating a piece of the sun. What is the sun? The sun and the sunlight, that is one and the same thing. There is nothing excepting sunlight. Sun means what? Sunlight. Sunlight means what? Energy. And what is food? Food is nothing but energy. Simple concept. So when God enters into us, we say it is called kripa or prasad. And how does he do that? It is not like our handing over something. He will remain separate and he will give something separate. No, he himself enters into that form. Is that idea understandable? So the Divine Mother, her very form is made up of three gunas, because she is Shakti. Shakti means what? Energy. And energy means what? Manifestation of knowledge. Energy means manifestation of knowledge. Is that point understandable? Because if energy prana is not there, our knowledge also is nothing but manifestation of prana. If when you are listening to my talk, your level of prana goes down. Then along with that also what goes down? The level of knowledge also goes down. Is it not? Because how much is entering into the brains depends upon the prana shakti. This is the idea. Our whole body, our mind, everything is nothing but a play of these three gunas. Now with that background, let us read. So, we are reading number 6. Let us chant. Tatra sattvam nirmaladvat prakashakamanāmayam sukha sangena padnāti jnana sangena chanagha. Of this, sattva, on account of its stainlessness, is luminous and free from evil. It binds the embodied self by attachment to happiness and by attachment to knowledge. So first comes knowledge, then comes happiness, not the other way around. When knowledge comes, then happiness comes. You see, just like this. Supposing we enter, we come into this room, puja is going on. Then you see, there is nice, what is it called? Banana. You see the banana. Suppose you like banana. And remember, banana is a very, very wonderful fruit or mango. So when you see the banana, banana is being offered to the Divine Mother. Your mind becomes very happy. Why? This knowledge that banana is being offered now, and this offered prasada I will be getting after some time. You know how much these people puja, puja darun hoise. Darun hoise means what? Bhajan was very good, bhojan was very good. Suppose there is nobody to sing, and there is very little, some patasha prasad is there. সেদিন পূজাটা কেমন লাগে? হয়েছে পূজা, puja is done, but that enthusiasm was not there. Do you see now? First you see, then you have knowledge. Oh, such nice things are. See how many things we are depending on. Suppose you see one small rasgulla offered, 50 people. Immediately you say, no hope. Because this rasgulla will definitely be given to Maharaj. And he is not diabetic. This knowledge itself will make you yeah. What a understanding. This is worse than not having rasgulla. Because if there is no rasgulla, then at least nobody is, not only I am not going to get, nobody else is going to get. But if there is one rasgulla, that is agony. Because I am not going to get, only Maharaj is going to get. See, first comes knowledge. And that knowledge is what makes us happy. So knowledge, right knowledge, is preceded by or succeeded by happiness. That is, then we know when a person is happy, what guna is manifesting? Sattva guna. Always. This is the conclusion. Always. Even if a person is little bit happy for a short time, that means for that short time, in that small way, which guna is manifesting? Sattva guna. But if that happiness is longer lasting, then that means the sattva guna is lasting longer time. If it is lasting for whole life, that means the whole person is endowed with sattva guna. That is why in the Vishwasya Dhata, it is said, Sri Ramakrishna's body is made up of Vishuddha Sattva. Sthane yadadaya Vishuddha Sattvam Ihavatirno Bhuvi Ramakrishna. That is why Sri Ramakrishna is ever happy person. He says, I am like a happy pigeon. When I see unhappy people, I use it to run away. It is very true. Why you may think, oh, he is a saint. Why does he run away? He runs away because that is Sattva Guna manifestation. This is unhappiness is Tamo Guna. How can Sattva Guna and Tamo Guna stay in the same place? How can light and darkness stay in the same place? It is not possible. That is why when we enter into the shrine room or a temple, we must always feel happy. Because if we don't feel happy, we are not feeling the presence of God. What are we feeling then? Presence of devil. Simple truth. That is why these are created. If you are unhappy, then you come here to become happier. You come here to charge your batteries. Otherwise, having come here, if you feel unhappy, then it is worse because you are making a bad habit. No. Okay. Next to 7th verse, let us read. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi Krishna sanga samudbhavam tannivadnati kaunteya karma sangena deinam. No rajas to be of the nature of passion, the source of desire and attachment. O son of Kunti, it binds fast the jiva by attachment to action. What does attachment to action mean? There are people nowadays who have enough money but still go on working. Even after 60 years, Sri Ramakrishna would never accept the idea that one should go on working for a long time. After 60, if you go to Sri Ramakrishna, Thakur, I am 60 years old, shall I retire? And he will ask you one simple question. Have you enough to live? If you say yes, then you will say don't work. He is not asking you to stop working. He is asking you to stop working unnecessary work in the office and here and there. Don't work. But you work more for your own spiritual development. Read more books, meditate more, do more puja, visit more Vedanta center, attend satsangas, increase this work to redirect the same energy here. Don't waste there. Of course, if people do not have, they have to have money, that's a different issue. So, what happens to Rajoguna Sampannas? Nowadays they work. They have enough money. Most of them have enough money. Why do they work? Because they don't know how to spend their time. Not only that, they are so restless. Unless they do something, that they don't feel happiness at all. It is a kind of addiction. That is why Erich Fromm called them workaholics. Work itself becomes alcohol, workaholics, workaholism. Sri Ramakrishna never approved of this idea. No, you must know that. He never asked you. But if you want to do service, that's a different issue. You go to some hospital, or go to some school, or go to some other field, then you serve the humanity. That's fine. But not working these useless offices, go on doing it. Ramakrishna would never say that. How does Rajoguna bind us? When we see a person who has many desires, and desire produces action, because desire means what? Let me go, let me fulfill this desire. Then it produces, kama produces karma, karma produces samskara, samskara produces vasana, vasana produces kama, kama produces karma, karma produces samskara. This is the vicious circle. So he's telling, when through all the sense openings in this body, no, not that one. Which one? Rajas manifests overpowering, not even that one. Where are we? Number 7, isn't it? No rajas to be of the nature of passion, the source of desire and attachment. It binds fast the embodied self by attachment to action. Let us read number 8. Tamastvajnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidrabhi tannibadnati bharata. But no tamas, to be born of ignorance and deluding all embodied beings, it binds fast, O descendant of Bharata, through inadvertence, laziness and sleep. We discussed already. Sleep, laziness and inadvertence. What is inadvertence? What is the meaning of inadvertence? Pramada means what? The inability to pay attention to what we are doing. 1 second's inattention while driving could be tremendously dangerous. 1 second's inadvertence, you are reading something, you have lost the thread. 1 second is enough. 1 second is enough to cause death or injury, accident, anything. So when we see these things happening, then they are caused by, we have to infer, these are the effects, then they are caused by which guna? Tamo guna. It took long time for the answer to come. Okay. 9th. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati raja karmani bharata jnanam avrutyatu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. Sattva binds one, where is it? 9. Sattva binds one to happiness, Rajas binds one to work, while Tamas, by covering knowledge, binds one to inadvertence, etc. What we discussed earlier. These are the effects. Through the effects we know how it binds. All the three are binding. Pramada is also binding. Karma is also binding. And Sukha also is binding only. But how do we get out? That is where the word yoga comes. Yoga means what? You connect these very three to God. Now how do you connect? Sukha. You are eating a sweet meat. Sukha comes. And if you don't connect it with God, then what does it do to you? It binds. How does it bind you? Because it produces, this is very nice, let me have it again. But how to overcome it? Connect it to God. How do you connect it to God? So you offer it to God and eat it as prasada. And when you are eating prasada, what should you remember? How do you remember? Okay, I will give you a hint. I can only give you a hint. Understanding should come to you through your own self. Supposing you are eating a sweet meat. So what do you experience? Sweet. If you are eating Koraila, bitter gourd, what do you experience? Bitter. Suppose you are eating prasada. What should you experience? Not sweet.
Happiness.
God. Prasada means God. Prasada means God. Prasada means not sweet, not bitter. Suppose Koraila is offered to Thakur. And then what does it become? Yeah. It's very often we forget this. So many things happen should happen when we offer something to God. Or when we do Brahmarpanam. So when you suppose there is full food, there is sweet, there is payasam, there is dal, and there is bitter gourd. The whole thing is offered to God. Then we do Brahmarpana. So what happens? All the food becomes Brahman. Then you can't say this is bitter gourd and this is sweet and this is dal. What should you say? Whether you are eating rice, whether you are eating bitter gourd, or whether you are eating sweet, you should say, I am only eating prasada. Now look, Nag Mahashaya was given food and a salpata. What did he do? He ate the salpata. Now was he making a distinction? Was he eating salpata? From our eyes, he is eating. So, what a madcap he is. He should have eaten only prasad. He should not have eaten salpata. But do you think he was foolish enough to eat salpata? No. What was he eating really? Because prasada touched salpata, the salpata also has become prasad in his eyes. Suppose you give him, just as an imaginary exercise, that instead of giving good things, as you tell him this is offered to Thakur, give only bitter gourd. What do you think he would have done? Would he have eaten it reluctantly? He would have eaten with the great same joy, because he never made any distinction between this prasada is prasada, period. That should be our ideal. We haven't yet reached to that, but that should be the ideal. That is why, sacraments in Hindu's life, in every human life, every religion has sacraments. You know sacraments? Is Vivaha, Garbhadana, then Annaprashana, then Namakarana, then what is called Yagnopakarana, Upanayana, then making him get married again, this whole round Shraddha, all these things are called what? Sacraments. What does the sacrament mean? What does the sacrament mean? Sacrament means that the whole life is made sacred. Sacrament means that which helps us to become sacred is called sacrament. So take the instance, marriage is a sacrament. So marriage sacrament means what? After offering themselves to God, both husband and wife, now they should consider themselves as married by God himself. Because the Agni Devata, Sakshi, that is why they go around the Agni. So that Agni is not ordinary fire. For Hindus, Agni fire is not ordinary material fire. It is Agni Devata. So we offer in Homa Kunda that Agni is Ram Agni Tvam Sri Ramakrishna Namasi. Agni, you are now called Sri Ramakrishna's Sri Ramakrishna. You are named as Ramakrishna. That means the fire becomes what? Ramakrishna. Then whatever you offer, whom are you offering? To Ramakrishna. So marriage takes place in that fire, in front of the fire. And then people go around the fire, both bride and bridegroom. They take 7 steps. By that, what are they telling? The God is a witness that we are married in his eyes to each other. That means we will look upon each other as the most beloved. After that, if you consider, oh, this person is a worthless person, anything can happen. A person may have a disease, one person may have an accident, or paralysis, or cancer. But, oh, what a burden something. I wanted only to enjoy life, but now this burden has come. I have to look after whole life. If the person thinks, what do you think God is thinking? This fellow had taken a vow in front of me that they will cherish each other, and now he has gone back on his promise. That means you become a liar. And what is the fate of the liars? You see, that's why we take vows. When a person takes brahmacharya diksha, he takes a vow. When a person takes sannyasa, he takes a vow in front of God, Agni. So I have renounced the world. Afterwards, if that person renegades, goes back, then you know what Sri Ramakrishna used to say? To say it is like thutu fele. Again eating, you spit something, you vomit something, and then eat. This is what dogs do sometimes. They vomit and after some time again they eat it up. It is like that for a sannyasi to fall from that ideal. What about householders? It is exactly the same thing. If the husband or wife violate, then they are also renegading. That means they are falsifying their God. That's why is it made so sacred? So that we are always reminded it is not you who makes, it is God who makes things. Whatever He gives, prasada, you have to eat. You can't simply go on criticizing prasada. You can't criticize prasada. See how wonderful it is if we follow it properly. Otherwise, of course, we suffer. Anyway, coming back, so these are the three qualities. Sattva, what does it do? It brings happiness. Sattva brings happiness and it binds through that happiness. How does it bind? Because once you have a happiness, you feel, I must have this happiness again. That is how desire is produced.
Why is this sattva binding to happiness? It refers to material happiness.
Any happiness, including God happiness.
Really?
In the last runs, not now. In the last run, because happiness must come from within. But don't take it for now. Get happiness from God. Even though it binds you to whom?
God.
Only to God. Ultimately, God also is a bondage. Yes, in the last run, because to think that I am different from God is a bondage. To think that I am God is called mukti. Thakur, ultimately what did he do? His beloved mother Kali, what did he do? Cut into two. Means what? He cut his ajnana. You and I are not different. You and I are one. Before that, I am here, you are there. I am getting great happiness by seeing you. But for us, that is a great happiness. But for at that stage, that is a bondage. I don't want to be separate from you. Ami chini khete bhalobashi, chini hote china. That is a lower ideal. I want to eat sugar, enjoy sugar, not be sugar. That is a lower stage. But when you come to that stage, like a moth falling into fire, we never want any separation, this much separation from our Ishta Devata. That is called Advaita. Okay. And what does Rajas do? It binds, it produces work. And through work, it binds people. And what does Tamas do? It covers knowledge and brings pramada, alasya, nidra, laziness, inadvertence, inability to pay attention, and all those things. And through that, it binds us. Let us go to the 10th. Rajastamascha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. Rajasattvam tamaschaiva tamah sattvam rajastatha. Sattva manifests overpowering rajas and tamas. Rajas manifests overpowering sattva and tamas. Likewise, tamas overpowering sattva and rajas. What the idea is, at any given time, only one guna manifests. So if sattva is manifest, that means what? Rajas and tamas are, they are down below, they are suppressed. If rajas is dominant, what does it mean? Sattva and tamas are overpowered, subdued. And if tamas is overpowering, that means what? The sattva and rajas, though they are there, but they are not allowed to manifest. That is the first point. Second point is that even there is nothing called pure tamas, pure rajas, pure sattva. So sattva guna pradhana means 99% sattva or 98% sattva, 1% rajas and 1% tamas. 98% rajas, 1% sattva, 1% tamas. 98% tamas, 1% and 1% rajas. You know, one sweet wheat maker, he advertised cashew badam barfi. Cashew badam barfi. So one fellow went and then he bought it. And then he was trying to find cashew badam. Not one cashew badam he was coming across. So he went to marched to the shopkeeper. What a cheat you are! Cashew badam barfi, and where is cashew? He said, you know, you are wrong. I myself prepared it. You know, it is cashew and barfi means what, some material, wheat or something is there. So how did you make? 50-50. Means 50% cashew, 50% this maida. What did you do? This I myself made, you know. It is 1 kg maida and 1 cashew badam. If you don't get it, that is not my fault. So, 98% tamas and 1% sattva and 1% rajas is there. That is not a nice dukkha, nice sweet meat. So we should have at least a little more sattva and a little more rajas. That is the idea. So, two ideas from this. What is the idea? At any given time, one particular guna alone manifests. But it doesn't mean other gunas are totally absent. It means they are less percentage. That's why I gave you the example of dimmer switch. Dimmer switch, there is darkness, there is also light. 100% darkness is tamas, 100% light is sattva. But in between it is a mixture of, you know, suppose you take it up, 5% you put it up, dimmer switch. How much light and how much darkness?
Less light, more.
I gave you 5%. 5% means what? 5% light and 95%? That is when you are having 5. Then 10%. Then means what? 10% light and 90% darkness. If it is 50%, then means what? 50% light and 50%? If it is 75%, 75% light and 25% darkness. 99% means what? 99% light and 1% darkness. 100% light. Is there something called 100% light? There will be some small amount of darkness will always be there. That is the idea. Okay. Number 11. सर्वद्वारेषु गेहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युता. When through all the sense openings in this body the light of knowledge radiates, then indeed one should know that sattva predominates. Again he is describing the same idea in a little more elaboration. When sattva predominates like Thakur, light comes literally from the body. You know, when Thakur when he did this tantric sadhana, light used to come out of his body. And so, you know, Swami Vivekananda at Belur Math, one night, Swami Vijnananandaji got up in the middle of the night. He had to go to the toilet. So as his room and Swamiji's room are very, very near. You know that Swamiji's that building? Swamiji's room is the corner and the other 3 rooms are there. One of those rooms, Swami Vijnanandaji was there. So he looked at Swamiji's room. A whole room was filled with brilliant light. He said, what is this? At midnight, So much of light is coming, so let me see what is happening. And that light also is strange light, because in those days they didn't have all these electric lights and other things. So he went and peeped in. You know what he saw? Swami Vivekananda was sitting deep in meditation. The whole room was lighted up by the brilliance coming out of his body. At some point, Thakur's body also, unusual, it used to bring beauty. And the villagers used to gape. And one day Thakur didn't notice it and said, "Oh, Hriday, why are all these people always running after me?" He said, "Mama, you know that when you chew bitter leaf and come out, as though light is coming out of your body, they want to see, they enjoy it. They never see this kind of sight in any fellow." Then Thakur said, "What? To see this cage of bones and flesh?" Then he went inside and, "Mother, please go inside. Mother," and then Bhitare jao, manifest in the form of bhakti, gnana, not in this physical light. Physical light used to come. Swami Vivekananda was like that. Raja Maharaj was like that. One day, Swami Brahmanandaji was walking. Early in the morning, he was in the habit of walking. And one of his disciples, he was going for some work, but he saw Swami Brahmanandaji. And he rubbed his eyes and looked. What was he seeing? Swami Brahmananda was not walking. He was floating. He thought, "Am I hallucinating?" He rubbed his eyes. And again he looked. Again he looked. Again he looked. Swami Brahmananda's feet were not touching the ground. They were just floating like this. We can't believe such things could happen. That's what happened to Hriday. One day he saw Thakur in Panchavati. What did he say? He was not walking, he was floating. Then he looked at himself. What was he doing? He was also floating. Yeah. You know, these are ethereal beings. They are not ordinary beings. They appeared like our bodies, but their bodies are something entirely different. Swami Vivekananda, he used to float, and his body used to change. Sometimes he appeared to be very tall, sometimes he appeared to be very short. He, according to his mood, his body was so flexible, moving. Can you imagine? Yeah. That's why religion is very good. Fat people, if they practice spirituality, they can also become very lean without reducing and becoming anorexic and all those things. So, through every pore of the body, when sattva increases, it comes out in the form of light. Not necessarily the light that we have been talking about. But here what does light mean? Knowledge. What does it mean? We look at the same thing, but we see different things. Not only I am talking about spiritual understanding, I am also talking about actually sense organs seeing something more than what we ordinarily see. For example, the Dutch painter Van Gogh, he used to paint a haystack from sunrise to sunset. And people used to wonder, what does he see? Then it was found out that he could see extraordinarily different way. From when you look at a haystack, what do you see? Haystack. Whole day you go on looking at it. What do you see? Haystack. But when he looked at different times of the day, the same haystack appeared in different degrees of color. The same color, but different degrees. Because he had an extraordinary type of eyesight. Not only that, is, you know, there is something called ultraviolet light. Now, many birds and insects see things only in that light. For example, honeybees, they don't look at a flower. You know, we are looking at this flower. It can never look at this same flower as we look. How does it look? You know how it I can't give a description. But recently they showed us in the TV, because now there is a special camera which can take photographs under the ultraviolet light. So what happened? There was a French painter called Monet. And what happened? He had a cataract operation, both eyes, at slightly different times. One cataract operation had gone very normally. He recovered successful, normal sight. When the second eye was operated, something extraordinary happened. He started seeing things in ultraviolet light. That's why now the explanation came why after that operation the colors he used of his paintings are completely different from what he used earlier. Previously we didn't have that equipment, but now we have the equipment. So there is a special camera. With our eyes, normal eyes, we can never see. But with this camera, they look something like divine. Of course, for a few days. After that, it becomes normal. Anyway, what is the point? The point is not only intellectually and spiritually, but even physically, when sattva increases, the capacity to see, to hear, to smell, to taste becomes very great. But one example will make this point more clear. You know, there are wine tasters, coffee tasters. The first point is they never drink coffee. Coffee tasters don't drink coffee. Wine tasters don't drink wine. Because if they drink, they will lose this taste. That means so far as their tongue is concerned, they are paramasatvikas. Their tongue had developed that extraordinary quality by just a little bit of touch. They can tell from which place this material has come. For example, this wine is made from grapes and grown at such and such and such area. Now you know, very interesting thing. In Andhra Pradesh, we grow a special type of mango called Banginapalli. I don't know whether anyone of you have heard about it. Very, very flavorful. Not very sweet, but very flavorful. And many people tried to grow that mango anywhere else. But it will grow, it will give. But only the soil in that place can bring out that type of flavor. Similarly, basmati rice. You can grow basmati rice anywhere. But there is an area near Uttarkashi, and only that particular strip can give the world's best flavor of basmati rice. That is offered to Badri Narayana. It belongs to the Raja, and the rice grown there is specifically offered to Badri Narayana and the king of that place. Nobody else can get it. See, so physically, but here what is referred is when sattva develops. When you see something else. When you hear something else. When you smell something else. When you taste something else. When you touch something else. What is that something else? You know what it is? Bhadram karne vishrunayama deva. May we see what is auspicious. May we hear what is auspicious. One example to make this point clear. One day Sri Ramakrishna was going to Calcutta. Then he saw a woman standing outside a door, public woman, waiting for customers. What do we see? A public woman. What did he see? Mother Sita waiting for Rama. Now the same sight. But because sattva, he was seeing through the eyes of the sattva, his interpretation, what was he seeing? Mother Sita. So this is how, when we hear a bad word, for example, we hear the word wine, karana. A technical word is karana, madhya. Mod bole na, madhya, from madhya. Madhya or wine is called karana. in Tantric language. Karana, when a Tantric person or we, immediately wine comes to our mind. But when Sri Ramakrishna heard the same word, what was his interpretation? You read Great Master. There are so many things. I will give an example also. One day he saw a dog and a bitch mating. When we see such sight, what is the idea that comes to our mind? But when Sri Ramakrishna saw, what did he see? Shiva and Parvati sporting with each other. Not in our way. Again we bring Shiva also Parvati, man and woman, they are also mating with each other. No. That is this Chaitanya and Shakti. Mother Kali's idea of Mother Kali. Shakti and Chit. Chit Shakti Sanyoga. That was what idea came. He went into ecstatic state. And here it only creates trouble for people like us. It's the same sight. But why that different interpretation? Because his mind was endowed with Sattva Guna. So that is the idea here. When Sattva Guna increases, our whole body, means every sense organ, has only one goal. It connects everything with only one object. What is that object? God. And whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we smell, whatever we taste, whatever, it reminds us only about God. When we are endowed with rajas, then it creates desires. When we are endowed with tamas, because tamasic fellow, even if you feed him prasada, what do you think he will do? After eating nice payasam, what do you think a tamasic fellow will do? That is the quality. So number 12. Lobha pravrutirarambha karmana mashamaspriha rajasyetani jayante vivruddhi bharatarshava. Greed, activity, undertaking of works, restlessness, desire. These prevail, O best of the Bharatas, when rajas predominates. This is how we know. When a person is greedy, that means he is endowed with rajas. A person is having lot of desires, or he is restlessly working. All this, what does it indicate? He is possessed by rajas. 13th. Aprakasho apravrittischa pramado moha evacha tamasyetani jayante vivruddhe kurunandana. Darkness, inactivity, inadvertence, as also delusion, these prevail when tamas predominates. That means he misunderstands. And whatever is done to him, he will, even if you do something intentionally good, he will misinterpret it as the opposite way, because his brain is covered with. Yes. Now see, there is a wonderful play. Sri Ramakrishna had a cousin brother. His name was Haladhari. And he used to stay in the temple. He was a little bit learned. And he could read scriptures. And he used to discuss scriptures with Totapuri Maharaj. So this Haladhari used to ridicule Sri Ramakrishna. He said, oh, you go on claiming, I have this experience, that experience. You are a fool. You have not even read scriptures. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, I have experienced, but you won't believe. So one day he was doing like that. So Sri Ramakrishna got very inshallah, Bolchi, he went and sat, literally climbed onto the shoulders of Haladhari. Immediately, oh Ramakrishna, I recognize you now, you are God. Whatever you said was absolute truth, I was a fool. Sri Ramakrishna got down. You fool, you think you are realized soul. When Sri Ramakrishna climbs him, everything is fine. When Sri Ramakrishna comes down, he is his normal self. So, this is how, that was his real nature. But when Sri Ramakrishna climbs, what happens to him? Temporarily, Sattva Guna, like this Vikramaditya's Simhasana. Remember? Huh? Simhasana. Did I tell you that story? Bhojaraja's story? I will tell you. Very nice story. So, this play went on so many times. And when Sri Ramakrishna touches him or climbs, "Oh Ramakrishna, I recognize you now. But take care," Ramakrishna says. "Many times you said, no, I was a fool at that time. So I will, this time, final. You are God." As soon as he comes down, this is stupid fellow. So that was not his nature. But when the same person gets to the Sattvika state, then he will understand what Sri Ramakrishna temporarily induced into him. And Haladhari did puja of mother for some time. And one day mother appeared to him in a ferocious form. "I will kill your son because you think I am tamasika." So his idea of Kali was, mother was full of tamoguna. That's why she also appeared to him in that very form, and she told, "I am going to kill your son." And a few days later, his son died. So the story was like this, There was a king called Bhojaraja. And one day, noon, he was walking, going from one place to the other place. It was noon, about 1 o'clock or so. And everybody was very hungry. They were passing by the side of a sweet corn field. And there was a huge mound in the middle of the field. And there was a Brahmin who was guarding, and the sweet corn was ripe. So he saw the king and soldiers passing. He said, "O king, what sin have I committed? Why, this is noon. Probably you have not taken food. Would you do me the honor? Take any amount of sweet corn and eat." They were so glad, they started eating. As they were eating, he came down and he said, "King, what type of stupid king you are? I am a Brahmin. Instead of protecting me, you are eating away all my sweet corn." Then they said that this man only invited, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. Then they started, "Okay, thank you very much, we will not eat," as they were going. Again this fellow climbed and said, "Oh king, what sin have I committed? Why are you not eating? You just left out." 2-3 times this happened. Then the king got, when this fellow climbs the mound, he becomes very generous. When he comes down, he is his normal self. There must be something in the mound which made him do that. So he took the permission of the Brahmin, paid some money, and dug it up and found a most wonderful throne having 32 steps. And he paid the Brahmin and brought it, and he got it refurbished, or what you call, furnished or burnished or whatever you call it, and wanted to use it himself. Now on each step there were 2 wooden figures of women, Salabhanjika we call them. And as he was about to enter on an auspicious day, suddenly voice came, "Stop. You see, if you want to step on this, you will have to be as wise as Vikramaditya." Then how do I know whether I am wise or not? I will tell you a story. And if you can solve the problem, and then you are fit. You know the stories?
Yeah.
Did I tell you one story?
No.
So the first one of the stories, many people created wonderful stories. One story goes like this. In a village, there was a brother and sister, and the sister was married, and the husband, the brother, the sister living happily together. And there was a Kali temple nearby. So one day, the her husband, brother-in-law, both of them very good friends. They went to the Kali temple. On some matter, they came to quarrel. Then they took out their swords and chopped off each other's head. Fell down dead. This woman came to know, rushed there. He said, how can I live without my brother or husband? She was about to cut off her own head. Mother appeared and said, I am pleased with you, ask a boon. And she said, if you have to give me a boon, let my brother and husband come back to life. And the mother said, okay, put back their heads and they will come back to life. She put back the heads, they came back to life. But the only thing was, she put the head of the exchanged. Now, this was the story the Salamanjika told, and then she said, now tell me, who is her real husband? Of course, this was a story. Bhatti Vikramaditya had to answer, and through some ghost tells the story. That is the story. Betar. So the answer was that the head is the important thing, because the recognition that I am the husband or I am the brother, that lies in the brain. So the brain is only in the head, not in the butt. So that is the real husband. Like this is the whole day passed in this story. The next day he came. The other Salamanjika said, stop. Like that, 32 into 2, 64. Chandamama, beautiful stories.
They used to be beautiful, yes.
So the idea is that when Sattva Guna comes, then our knowledge will come. When Rajo Guna occupies, then what happens? These are the manifested effects, desire, greed, and too much of restlessness, too much of working, running hither and thither. When Tamo Guna comes, what happens? We become very dull. So this is how we understand who is a Sattvika, who is a Rajoguni, and who is a Tamoguni. What is the idea? Idea is, if we want to progress in life, any life, spiritual life or otherwise, we have to know what is our nature. Nowadays, what you call psychological profile. The psychologists compile psychological profile before giving him any job. There was an advertisement for an executive head, a post, not executioner, executive head. So many people applied. The interviews were taking place. One by one was called before. They entered into the office of the interviewer, and there was nothing, as though accidentally something has fallen from the table of the interviewer. This fellow wants to impress everybody that how obedient he was. So he will very carefully pick that up and put it on the table. And the interviewer says, thank you very much, talks for 2-3 minutes, and he sends out. Everybody did like that. The last fellow came. And then he also saw this, something lying down. Then immediately he looked here, the peon was standing, hey, come here, pick this up and put it. He got the job.
Delegate.
Executive head, yeah.
This is how this psychologists nowadays compile profile. So which subject a student has appetite for, not aptitude. And this is how, which type of job he has an aptitude. Otherwise they are misfit. In the olden days, there is what we call, man and woman to get married, ganas. And there is Rakshasa Gana, Naragana, as they used to divide, psychological profile. So the purpose is, if we want to improve, if we are exhibiting Tamoguna profile, then we must update into the Rajoguna profile, not in the file, but in the behavior. Yeah, you can't write this. Nowadays Indians, they all do like that. There's some recommendation, minister, some bribe, there's very fit person. It's only in the file, not in the behavior. So if somebody is Rajoguna profile, then he must update himself into Sattva Guna, because we can only observe the effects. We can't know what are the causes. We have to guess the causes. This is how in every action you observe yourself. Do you excuse when you have to get up and think about Thakur? And do you get joy when you do japam? Or you say it is a nuisanceable duty, let me finish it as quickly as possible. You are reading, this is for Chindi or whatever, Pata is just looking at the time and all those things. So the idea is we have to do it joyfully, and we have to stop ourselves and say, no, you have got other things to do. So you better stop your japam now. Do it mentally. Then Sattva Guna is there. But if the mind becomes restless, that means Rajaguna is there. And during talks and doing meditation, somebody is going into deep state. Some people come and tell me, Swamiji, nowadays my meditation is so deep, I only need 2 minutes. As soon as I sit, I don't know what happens. After 1 hour, then I open my eyes, 1 hour has passed. By the time I open my eyes, 1 hour has passed like this. They are very proud to tell me that they are having deep meditation. Funny things happen, Some people hear Anahata Dhvani. One such fellow came to Vedanta Center. This was Bhavyananda Maharaj's time. So one morning, he went early morning, and it was winter season, and he started hearing this. As soon as he sat for meditation, Anahata Dhvani. So he got so excited, he came to Bhavyananda and said, I started hearing Anahata Dhvani. He said, tomorrow morning you call me and I will explain it to you. So next morning, as soon as he started hearing, the Swami was also sitting. Swami, I am hearing. Swami called, I think, Joseph or somebody, told, put up the central heating. Central heating, that humming sound. Anahata Dhvani. What stupidity, these people have got all this type of, weird type of imaginations. No. How do we know? Because if you examine, you understand things better. Your detachment towards the worldly objects becomes more and more. Your joy, attachment to God, to japa, to prayer increases because you get so much joy. And if somebody shouts at you, you won't even mind because your Sattva-guna has increased. These are the characteristics by which we know definitely we are progressing. All the other things, the person's greed hasn't come down, his anger hasn't come down, his revengeful attitude hasn't come down, and he is excusing so many times. He says, I am progressing deeper and deeper into meditation. This is how we have to observe. Even to observe ourselves, we have to be very alert, awake. Otherwise, we sit for observing, and then the observer himself goes to sleep. That is not good. So we will take it up. I will stop here and take it up next November 13th. 13th of November.
7th?
Huh?
7th?
No, 13th.
13th.
Ramit
Because Ilas that Kali Puja is there. So she said it is Friday. And Sunday again Gita class. That is a bit too much. So we thought we will have it only on 13th. But Ramir Puja, it will go on 7th, it will go on. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru.